I can still smell the opening night, the way citrus oil bloomed in the air when I twisted a lemon over a skillet, the way brown butter went nutty sweet and clung to the copper pans like a promise. The dining room glowed the color of ripe apricots, velvet banquettes, brass sconces, linen that whispered when you smoothed it with your palm. Outside, San Francisco's fog made halos around the street lamps. Inside, the chandeliers made everything look like it had already happened and turned out beautifully. My name is Iris Vale. I'm 36, a chef who once believed that salt has more than a dozen moods and that people have at least as many. My husband, Colin Vale, restaurateur smile, watch that flashed when he shook hands, liked to say we were the perfect pairing. I made the food. He made the room. It's true that he made rooms. He made them hum. He was good with investors, with magazine people, with the kind of men who wore sweaters to show you they didn't need suits to be powerful. And me? I was good with kitchens. I could tell when a béarnaise would split by the sound, not the look. I could walk a line cook back from panic with a squeeze to the shoulder and a taste this feel where it wants to go. When we signed the lease for Murmur, our first place that would really be ours, we celebrated with champagne in paper cups and thyme leaves stuck to our sleeves. The space had tall windows that faced an alley strung with fairy lights, a bar that curved like a question mark, and a scent I can only describe as new wood with old stories. We decided Murmur would taste like memory and surprise holding hands. I built the menu like a novel, chapters that began with brightness and ended with warmth. Meyer lemon crudo with green coriander, charred little gem lettuces with pickled kumquat and ash-dusted feta, halibut steamed in kombu, then painted with miso brown sugar glaze and flanked by roasted fennel that cracked like candy when your fork tapped it. And dessert, my grandmother's fig and black pepper tart, the crust so shattery you'd hear your own bite. We worked until midnight, most nights. Colin handled contractors and Instagram. I handled recipes and staff. On good nights, we ate standing up. Torn bread dipped into anchovy garlic butter, the heat stinging our lips, his laugh spilling over the dish racks. On bad nights, we argued in whispers so the drywall wouldn't get ideas. He wanted more wow, more smoke, more tableside flourishes. I wanted to make food that felt honest in the mouth. We met in the middle, my flavors, his theater. 2 weeks before the investor dinner, the night that would decide whether we got the last tranche of funding, something shifted. It was small at first, like the difference between fresh basil and day old. Colin started coming home late from walkthroughs. He had saffron on his wrist once, a golden smudge that didn't come from our kitchen. He bought a new cologne that smelled like cedar and evasions. When I reached for him at night, he reached back but left parts of himself in the dark. I told myself stress has a scent, but the scent in our bed wasn't stress. It was cardamom and deceit. The first real crack happened on a Monday. I had come in early to finish a batch of preserved lemons. The kitchen at 6 a.m. was my cathedral quiet, stainless steel lit bluish from the street, the smell of coffee from a back hallway, and the faint ozone of a refrigerator that needed a service soon. I set my phone on a stack of invoices and pulled on gloves slick with salt and citrus oil. An alert pinged. Murmur Master Account. Transfer 2,500 Susina Supply, ACH. Murmur Master Account. Transfer 4,200 Voxon Concepts, ACH. Susina Supply was unfamiliar. Voxon Concepts too. I swiped open the banking app the way you open a curtain you're not sure you should. There were more transfers. Not huge, not ruinous, not at first. 1.800, 3-900, 5-100, always just under the amount that would flag automatically. A pattern that didn't want to be seen. The transactions description field? Consulting. Dry goods. PR trial. None from vendors I'd approved, and I approved them all. My tongue went metallic, the way it does when your body realizes before your brain that you're standing next to a live wire. I called Colin. He didn't pick up. I texted, "What's Susina Supply?" His reply pinged 10 minutes later. "New specialty purveyor for the truffle dinner. We'll explain tonight." We weren't doing a truffle dinner. Our investors hated fads. So did I. That night, he came home with a bag of to-go Thai and apologies, as if the heat from the curry could burn off the worry. "It's a small side project," he said, brushing off my questions with a smile. "A pop-up idea. Cross-pollination. It could feed Murmur's buzz." My hands were sticky with palm sugar and doubt. "Without telling me?" "Iris," he said, stretching my name soft. "I'm making rain while you make rivers. We do this together." Cardamom on his collar, cedar at his neck, a new laugh in his throat, edged with something that wasn't for me. I did what I do when I want to trust and can't. I went back to the food. The kitchen keeps its promises. Heat behaves the way heat behaves. If you treat an onion with respect, time, salt, patience, it gives you sweetness you can't get by force. Still, I started to watch him the way I taste a sauce I don't trust. One small spoon at a time, letting it wander over the tongue to see where it sours. 3 days before the investor dinner, a courier dropped a thick envelope at the bar. Inside, a printed deck with glossy photos of plates I didn't recognize carrying flavors I did, alongside a menu labeled Susina, a Modern Coastal Collaboration by Colin Vale. The ampersand waited for a name that wasn't mine. My halibut in kombu appeared on page 7 with a drizzle of yuzu that made it look elevated. My fig tart appeared as a fig brulee, a crisp shell over the same peppered custard my grandmother taught me to love. And a dish I had been working on quietly smoked oyster mushrooms over farro, swirled with ram pesto, appeared in full color with a note. Signature. The deck smelled faintly of saffron and toner. At the bottom of every page, box and concepts. At the last page, a photo of a woman leaning against a counter I didn't know. High cheekbones, dark hair pulled into a purposeful knot, eyes that looked at the lens like it owed her a favor. The caption, Sophie Lemaire, chef. I took the folder into the walk-in. The air was parsley cold. I pressed my palm to the stainless steel and breathed until my breath stopped arguing with itself. When I came out, the front doorbell chimed. Colin walked in with Sophie. She smelled like Star Inez and old decisions. "I've read about you," she'd said before he could say anything. "Your palette is precise." "Yours must be too," I said, smiling with all my teeth, because women learn early how to be wolves in satin. "You found my food from several blocks away." Colin clapped his hands like we were all on the same team. "We're doing a little friends and family pop-up tomorrow at an investor's loft. Just a taste of what he gestured between him and Sophie, might build alongside Murmur. Buzz is currency, Iris." "Murmur is almost open," I said lightly. "I thought we'd spend our buzz on that." "We will," he said. "This is additive. Iris, be gracious." A lemon rolled off the counter. I let it. The thunk when it hit the floor was a drumbeat for the part of me that had been too polite for too long. "Of course," I said. "Let me help you practice." I cooked with them the way you can dance with someone while memorizing their tells. Sophie's hands were quick. She oversalted early, then corrected with sweetness. She used smoke like punctuation. Colin flattered without flinching. "This is genius," he told her. "Your oyster mushrooms are a revelation." "They're mine," I said, almost like a joke. The room pretended not to hear. When they left, the kitchen exhaled. I took the trash out and kept walking to the end of the alley. I leaned against the brick and thought about how to flip a story without dropping it. If you want to save a dining room, you court a critic. If you want to save your life, you court the truth. I called Sable Quinn. If you eat in this city with intention, you know Sable. She writes like a scalpel. She hates gimmicks and loves sincerity. Once, in a previous place, she called my peaches round little sermons on sunlight, and we had stayed pen friends through a few seasons, where I learned how to fail and keep moving. She picked up on the second ring. "Well, to what do I owe the sainted apricot?" "I need you to be hungry tomorrow," I said, "and to sit very quietly at a thing that thinks it's private." "For you," she said. "I'll bring a fork and a witness." "Bring an appetite for reversals," I said. Best flavor there is, she replied. The pop-up was at a converted warehouse with too much concrete and not enough humility. Candles made 100 little lakes in the windows. People wore watches that would buy my line cook a used car. Saffron drifted in the air like a story someone wanted you to inhale. Susina in script on the wall. Vox on concepts on the programs. Colin in a navy suit that smelled like his new life. Sophie in white, perfect knife marks on her knuckles. I wore black and my grandmother's thin gold bracelet. I pinned my hair up so I would look like a woman who had somewhere to be. Sable sat at the bar, a pen behind her ear, eyes lit with the quiet you get when you're about to enjoy yourself professionally. Beside her, her witness Haruto, a photographer who could make steam look like it had thoughts, nodded at me once. Colin kissed the air near my cheek. Glad you came, he said, the way you speak to a donor who has already written the check. Wouldn't miss it, I said, the way you speak when you know you're about to do a magic trick with paperwork. They served 6 courses. I tasted every plate like an attorney. The miso glaze sang because I'd taught it the tune. The fig dessert shattered with a crack that tugged at my chest. The mushrooms pretended to be theirs. Investors murmured. Sable wrote. Sophie shone. Colin looked at her the way a man looks at the thing he's decided to be loyal to next. After dessert, he tapped his glass. Thank you, he said, voice warm as bourbon. Susina is just the beginning. We believe in collaboration, in elevating familiar flavors. I lifted my glass too. A toast, I said, smiling at them both, to collaboration, to credit, to contracts. A few heads turned. Sable watched me the way a hawk watches a field. Some flavors, I continued, still smiling, are so precise you can trace them. I can tell where a saffron thread was grown by the way it lingers. I can tell where a mushroom was smoked by the kind of hush that follows a bite. I can also tell when a menu was written with a photocopier. Sophie's smile held. Colin's did not. Iris, I set my glass down. I'm so thrilled that Susina is showcasing Murmur's food, I said, letting the room catch up. So thrilled you love the halibut in kombu, the fig tart with black pepper, the oyster mushrooms over farro with ram pesto. These are classics, Sophie said quietly, a hand resting on the knife roll at her hip. Her accent lion with a little Los Angeles turned classics into something very nearly kind. Which is why, I said, still gentle, I registered the intellectual property for Murmur's menus, processes, and recipes under Murmur Dining, LLC 2 months ago, and filed trademark applications for signature dishes, and included a non-compete and non-disclosure in the vendor and consultant contracts for this project. I nodded toward the corner, where a woman in a gray suit stood next to a potted ficus like a very polite idea. This is Marina Ostroff. She's counsel, also a guest. Marina lifted a hand. The room tilted slightly on its axis. Colin's voice went thinner. Iris, this is unnecessary. Necessary is a funny word, I said. So is consulting. Vox on Concepts build Murmur for PR trials that look a lot like seed funding for Susina. Susina Supply invoiced us for dry goods that look a lot like caviar you served tonight. Would you like me to read the totals, or should Marina? Sable's pen scratched. Haruto's lens clicked once, soft as a secret. An investor Ari Feld cleared his throat. He wore the kind of sweater men buy when they want to look like professors without doing the reading. Is this a lawsuit? It's a conversation, I said, about who gets to put their name on a thing after they've sold their partners without asking. Sophie met my eyes. For a second, the theater dropped, and a woman stood there who understood how kitchens break you in private. I did not know, she said. I was told Murmur was a dead project. Murmur opens in 12 days, I said. You're welcome to come, if you enjoy eating your own foot. Someone laughed, too loud, too nervous. Colin's hand opened and closed on the stem of his glass. Enough, he said, quiet and mean. If you want your little restaurant, take it. Susina will open anyway. Not with my food, I said. Not with Murmur's money. Not with those investors, if they prefer honesty with their halibut. Arifel looked at Sable. Never a good sign for a man who wants to control a story. Sable put her pen down. "I ate a very good fig dessert tonight," she said to the room. "I prefer to know whose grandmother it belongs to." The night didn't explode. It deflated quietly, like a souffle that had been asked a rude question. Sophie packed her knives. She lifted her eyes to mine and gave me the smallest, barest bow. "I'm sorry, or I see you. Or, you won't be alone in any room we share again." I couldn't tell which, and it didn't matter. Colin didn't come home that night. He left a text that made my name look like sour wine. Marina drafted letters before I finished brushing my teeth. Vox and Concepts returned the money they'd misbilled. Investors chose their dignity. Sable wrote a column about authorship in kitchens, about how recipes are stories, and stories have names. She didn't use ours. She didn't need to. People can taste subtext when it's seasoned properly. 12 days later, Murmur opened to a line down the block, and a kitchen that breathed in 4 time. The dining room smelled like citrus and good nerves. We served the halibut without apology. The mushrooms, too, with a new whisper of smoked tea that made the dish ours again in a way nobody could steal. And the fig tart, my grandmother's crust, where butter and salt negotiate. The black pepper that waits at the edge of your awareness like a secret you're not quite ready to tell. Made people close their eyes when they took the first bite. The room hummed. The chandeliers approved. The first critic to publish called Murmur a love letter to the tongue. It made me laugh in my walk-in, cheeks numb from the cold, and a smile I couldn't put down. The second said, "Vale cooks like truth is a spice you can measure." I pinned that one by the espresso grinder so the line could see what honesty looks like in print. Colin filed for dissolution of marriage with a claim to the brand. Marina filed a countersuit with a stack of documents that smelled like toner and victory. It never reached court. The settlement came with a clause he hated, a paragraph of thanks at the back of our menu that said he built the room long enough for me to learn I could build it alone. On a rainy Tuesday, a delivery came with no sender named, a small jar of Kashmiri saffron, threads like red lightning, and a note in neat printing, for tarts that fight back. I smiled, tasted a thread on my tongue until it went honey bitter, and slid the jar into the place where we keep the things too precious for the line. People ask me sometimes, at the pass when I step out so a table can see the person who built their memory, how it tasted to win. It tasted like browned butter and vindication, like lemon oil and relief, like smoke used kindly, like a mushroom that remembers the forest it came from, like a fig that waited until it was absolutely ready to be taken from its tree. More than anything, it tasted like saffron, the kind that stains your fingers in your future, and a little like the salt on my lips when I laughed in a kitchen that finally kept all of its promises. Epilogue notes, flavor of the room for the listener's senses. The dining room at Murmur glows low, apricot light, pooled in brass. The tables are walnut, warm and satiny, edges softened like river stones. Seat backs squeak faintly when people lean in to tell their favorite person a secret. From the kitchen door spills a current of scent that keeps changing as the night moves. First char, then lemon, then the clean pepper of just cut arugula, then the heartbeat thrum of roasted bones and garlic. The soundtrack is knives on boards, the basso events, a little vinyl in the bar that warps the trumpet like honey. The wine smells like baked pears and courage. Someone laughs at table 12, a laugh that belongs in a life that just got wider. You can taste the air if you try. Citrus highest, butter mid, the little ozone kiss of steam when a lid lifts. The floor smells faintly of bleach and oranges. The napkins feel like good promises under your fingers. A couple flirts with a dessert spoon. Somewhere near the back, a server describes the mushroom dish in a voice meant to persuade. Smoke like mountain air, pesto with a spring temper, farro that chews back. In the pass window, a single plate of fig tart, its surface glassed into a crackling cap. Iris taps it with the back of a spoon so it sings, then carries it out herself, the way some vows you have to deliver face to face.